Hey everybody, welcome to Forge Narrative. My name is Paul Murphy, your host. We are the Battle of Lost Souls podcast. This is episode 239. I got Justin Troupe and Chris Morgan.
How do you count so high?
I just, there's a part of me that sees that 9 and wants it to be a 40. What is it with even numbers?
It's getting close. It's very getting close. Thank you all, everyone who has recently subscribed or gave us that 5-star review. That means a lot. If you have not subscribed or given us a 5-star or whatever the max star review in whatever avenue that you listen to us, please do so. We really appreciate a comment. Whatever you can do to show a little bit of support, because that's how other people find us. Thank you all very much for doing that. Justin and Chris, I appreciate you joining me tonight. I'm going on vacation next week, so we will not have a show next week. So this is going to be our show, and there'll be a week break, and then we'll be back with more shows.
Yay, vacation.
Yep, it's going to be a real heartbreaker for Ricky because we're not going to give our night review until probably a little bit late.
Yeah, and he's not here to gush about Harlequins either, so Ricky's just, he's in a sad place.
We're going to talk a little bit about Harlequins today with Army List specifically and how they fit and a little bit how the Webway portal fits.
I would love to know how the Webway portal fits, personally.
Yeah.
Give me a reason, right? Give me a reason to put that on the table.
Well, it does look cool. It really does. I don't think it fits in a Harlequin specific list. And that's what I said last week. And maybe I'm reinforcing my own opinion of that. And you have to be careful with that. Like once we live, with 40K and building Army List and stuff, we can take anecdotal evidence and make that our reality. Does that make sense? Like, we can take the fact that our stuff that hits on 4s never hits, and so we never take it kind of thing. We can.
I mean, I kind of take it for granted that all of my opponent's 4+ invulnerable saves will be successful.
Will always be successful, right? Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is that I've kind of seeded in my mind that the Webway portal is not amazing for Harlequin specifically, but I do think it's good for Eldari in general. Sample lists that I've built for Harlequins don't include the Webway portal, but some people that have listened, and specifically like Josh Ginn, who has been on the show before, he is sending some messages to me. We text every now and then about how moving D-cannons in the weapon platforms from the Webway might actually be a sound strategy.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, there's items in the plethora of tools that you get to choose from that the Webway portal can be good at. I think for a lot of us, though, it's the price tag for it.
120 points. I completely agree. Now, another thing to do is like, it's become popular. Like, if you look at some tournament Army lists and stuff, which, by the way, the Slugga is coming up June 9th and 10th. Thank you, everyone who has registered, and we hope to see you there. We're going to blow it out. It's going to be an amazing time. I'm not sure if we're going to publish a list, but I'm sure we're going to see some of these lists that we're seeing develop in other tournaments appear there as well. Some folks have been taking Ravagers, like a unit of 3 Ravagers, as a Drukhari detachment. Now, if you put 3 Ravagers on the tabletop, they're going to be shot at. Is that a fair assessment?
Routinely shoots at Ravagers. I'm inclined to agree with you.
They're like paper airplanes. I mean, they have with these super huge guns on them. They put out a ton of damage, but if you put them on the table, they're going to be shot at. But if you were to elect to bring them to a Webway, does their effectiveness then increase? And same with the D-cannon platforms. Does things like that's effectiveness increase to justify the 120 point cost?
Yeah, I mean, there are things. I don't know if Ravagers are the things. I think, the concept of the D-cannons are definitely a great idea. Anything that's like a short-range assault or salvo weapons, like that. There's tons of tools that the Eldari have across the table that are a little bit more short range that are so potent. So delivery mechanisms are an issue for them in some cases. This does alleviate that plan to get them to where you need them to be a little bit better. So and it does also increase your board presence. You can go all in on one side, have the Webway portal on an opposite side of the table, and your board presence is larger based off of what's going to be coming through it.
Your footprint is your threat capacity or range, I guess is. Yeah.
So it does have tactical advantages and it does have practical uses. It's just, I think we're so focused on always trying to find like the most efficient concept, and I think that maybe that kind of ties into your point, Paul, of where we might be overlooking things, or we might be undervaluing it, because in our mind, the 120 points, it's not the most efficient thing in our brain. And so we could be missing something. And that's something that, we actually pride ourselves on, is we do try to always find different combos. And I personally just need more time looking. I think this is a great tool. I just don't know how to use it yet. And for me, it's the point price is. We
talked about the point price. Is that a tax? Is like a drop pod type cost or whatever. Like right. build it into the cost of your figure. But the fact that you can really spread that cost out across several figures, if you were like imagine let's say three Ravagers. They just went up by 40 points apiece if you're going to bring them in this way.
Yeah.
And I think that's a different way to rationalize it.
So that raises the question, though, if the Ravagers are going to come on via that portal, how much tougher is this thing than a Ravager? Because you've only got one of these to shoot at, and if it's gone, the Ravager's
toughness
never
8 with a 3+ save and a 5+ invulnerable save, and it's 14 wounds, and so it is fairly survivable.
Yeah, that survives one round of shooting in a lot of cases.
I think it does, especially with 3+ armor save, and then the invulnerable save. This stacks on top of that, and with a toughness 8. Toughness 8 is another level. Like strength 4 things are now wounding it on 6s instead of 5s.
Right. So what are the kind of things that people are looking at shooting nowadays? I would say, for the most part, a lot of people are looking to maximize on their chaff clearing shooting, the stuff that isn't necessarily super high strength.
Yeah,
has a modest AP value, something that will clear out squads of guardsmen.
Yeah,
so,
we'll talk a little bit about this too. Like for the ATC list that I'm thinking about, to where I'm including some Crimson Hunter Exarchs into the list. The Crimson Hunter Exarch gets the ability to field a star cannon instead of the Bright Lances. So and that's simply more shots, but lower string shots.
Yeah, man, I remember star cannons used to be so scary back in 3rd.
Dude, I thought back in beginning of 3rd, into 2nd, I've told the story before, but I thought my friend was probably cheating with his star cannons. I'm like, because I'm sitting there playing my 2nd edition Blood Angel army.
It's like they have how many shots each?
And they kill a Marine, they kill all my Marines. But they're of course worse now. They're 2 shots, or sorry, they're a little bit more, I guess, in line now. 2 shots apiece, instead of 3. But anyway, that's where I'm going. To your point though, you're talking about I'm going for volume of fire instead of, quality of fire.
Right. The things that you're going to be scared of are going to be the strength 9 shooting, and let's think about dedicated strength 9 shooting for a second. Aside from Gilliman with Devastator las cannons with the rerolls, what are those strength 9 threats that are really going to scare you?
There aren't many, kind of in quantity. We talk about this, the variance on a las cannon shooting at things. The las cannon does, on average, 2 wounds after, you factor in saves and invulnerable saves and that kind of stuff. It might, when you factor in invulnerable saves, it might be
2.3 or something.
It might be less than that. So, just think that if we're just talking about this thing with a las cannon, that needs 3s to wounds, by the way, not 2s. And a las cannon struggles to wound things on 2s, but it needs 3s to wound. Let's just say just an average of 2 wounds apiece after saves and after rolling randomly for wounds and stuff like that. You're looking at 7 las cannons that have to be fired at this thing. Which
I also,
who's packing?
if I'm being honest about my main concern about the Webway gate, it would be that combat may mess with the deployment of units coming out of it. Now, there's the Harlequin stratagem. It's like 1 command point that lets you just come out right next to somebody, basically.
That's if it gets destroyed. That's if it gets destroyed.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're able to do that. You're able to bring a unit out that was in the Webway if it's destroyed by spinning a command point, and you can bring it out right next to somebody.
Okay. Yeah, and the other, if I'm thinking of a combat beast that would hurt this, maybe not something like a mob of critters or whatever, but something like aggressors, Raven Guard aggressors that are up close and personal in the early parts of the game, where they're hitting automatically, right? That improves your odds of wounding pretty dramatically, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you can take parts of a variable out of the equation, it increases. But I don't see aggressors tearing this down very easily via the flame profile. That's not a very effective way in this specific case. But I do see your point.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd send aggressors against this thing, but with their power fist though, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Combat, you're automatically hitting the Webway portal. Right?
Yeah, it is in
close combat.
Yeah,
so if you're automatically hitting with all those power fist attacks,
that's different. I mean, we are talking about. Like, let's be clear, we're talking about a fringe unit at the top tables, the aggressors. Competing against what is an unknown variable at this point, like how effective is the Webway gate. I don't know if people will be stacking things like aggressors just because they think they might run against a Webway.
No, I'm kind of looking at it from I have the Webway perspective. Like, what are the kinds of things that could threaten it?
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
No, it does.
I mean,
it does. Melt-A-Gun.
And an aggressor's unit might be a fringe unit, but it is something you might see in the second, third, or fourth round at a 2-day
drop Melt-A-Guns from Scions.
Boom.
That's again. The Webway is new in this, and I don't want to make it sound like there isn't a case for it. I think there is a case for it. I think that, but you have to factor it into your strategy, and that's kind of where we're going. Is that if I'm taking 3 Ravagers, is it worth spending 40 extra points to protect them? I think it is. Does the Webway make some things that were not necessarily viable competitively before, like D-cannon platforms, more of a contender? And I think the answer to that is also yes.
And we're going to have to see how much of an impact this ends up having on that scene.
No, the way you have to look at it though is the point investment worth your strategy? And that's really what it comes down to. And you have to make that. You're not making this decision in a vacuum either. You're making this decision every single time you choose to buy a Rhino, a Wave Serpent, or a Drop Pod. And that's what I'm talking about. That's how you have to look at this.
Being since we're kind of focused on Harlequins, so kind of tone it into that direction a little bit more. Again, being that the Harlequins only have their certain transport options, this being an extra addition to that option does help Harlequins.
Yeah, and again, back to the Wraith Knight and stuff too. I think that the Webway gate, and Ricky joined us. Ricky, you able to get in with us?
Oh my gosh, can we just talk about the Webway gate being the slowest transport in 40K?
It is.
I think everybody hit everything pretty much on the head. It's situational, and I completely agree that you got to look at it just like you would look at any other transport option. It's not the answer. It could be an answer.
Well, I mean, it depends on. It's situational. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
But with Harlequins, because they are so fast, and let me talk about this is a list that I put together. That is, if you're playing like Harlequins solo, this is maybe what I would consider. Like if you're playing just Harlequins.
All right, that's cool. If you're going to step on my toes, because that was my gig.
Oh well, I mean, but
no, you go.
You.
Go for it.
Well, okay. This is not necessarily optimized, but this is a 2,000 point Harlequin list. And it doesn't include the Webway. Spoiler. Because I think the Harlequins are so fast.
They're so fast. Okay, listen up, everybody. Just because the Webway gate came out at the same time as the Harlequin Codex does not mean that is a Harlequin piece of equipment.
Yeah, it just simply is it doesn't even have the Harlequin keyword on it.
Yeah. Do not feel obligated to put that in your Harlequin army. When you're advancing and still shooting and charging, I don't think a Webway gate is...
You don't need to put out what is essentially a vulnerability.
Good.
You don't need to shield any of your units from combat because... Now, with the units we were talking about before, you do need to shield from combat. Because they are either with the Ravagers, their priority target number 1 because they just go down so quickly. Or things like the D-cannons, they may never be in range unless you do something like this. So, I mean, all that stuff really matters. But for the rest of the stuff, this starts out with Shadowseer. The Shadowseer is really, comparatively to other Eldari HQs, pretty expensive. It's 125 points. Now, it does have the warp time special, the psyche power, which is essentially warp time. And it's got a ton of things that it can add to your army. But at 125 points, you're not taking a ton of them, I don't think. The Troupe Master, and I chose to arm him with a fusion pistol and a caress, comes in at 86 points. So
Troupe Master? Okay.
Yeah. You've got a guy who can zip pretty far and do things in combat. Now, the fusion pistols, we didn't talk about them a lot in the previous show, but they are pistols.
Yeah.
Which means it's like an additional close combat attack with something that's like every one of your Harlequins is essentially has one extra power fist attack in close combat. That's another way to talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, and the price points, it's hard to argue with that, with the profile versus the price point on a fusion pistol.
Yeah, the fusion pistol, what is that price point? It's 9 points.
Yeah.
Yeah, 9 points for, I mean, granted a short range, but 9-point melt-a-gun. Okay, cool.
And you've got dudes who can close the distance too.
Yeah.
It's only got a 6-inch range, just for fear, but it's strength 8, neg 4 AP, and that neg 4 AP pushes it up into you don't have armor anymore.
Yeah.
With D6 damage.
And I would even argue that the Shadowseer, like when you start thinking about the Shadowseer being about 125, I honestly I don't think that's that bad, because if you look at other psychers who are about 100 points or so, but he's casting 2 spells, and don't forget he has the shield from harm rule.
The
shield from harm rule,
that's powerful.
Yeah.
Yep.
That alone makes him worth an extra 25 points in my mind for 2 psychic powers and that.
What I was just going to say is, like, when you look at a Demon Prince being 180 points.
Okay, that's fair.
And having, three more wounds.
Yep.
A better save. Like, the save on a Shadowseer is 7+. Like, that's his armor save.
Yeah, it's not great.
But he's got a 4+ invulnerable save, so it's it's a different story altogether. With the 4+ invulnerable save, it's hard to detract from the invulnerable save. But the Demon Prince with a ton of attacks, higher toughness, higher strength, 180 points, and he's a psyker, and gives reroll wounds around him. The Demon Prince is obviously great, right? There's no question there. And the Shadowseer is not great because it doesn't stack up stat for stat versus Demon Prince. What I'm saying is, for an Aeldari HQ, when a Farseer is 100 points, 110 points maybe, it's just expensive for the Aeldari HQ slot. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. All right, let's continue on here. I want to see what all you got that I don't have in my list.
Well, the shield from harm, though, it's
huge. For this army, shield from harm is what's going to keep them on the table.
Your opponent must subtract 1 from wound rolls for any attacks made against friendly Masque infantry units that are within 6 inches of any model with this ability. So within 6 inches of the Shadowseer, they subtract 1 from their wound rolls. Yeah,
I love it. That right there, I think, is one of the best abilities that Harlequins have available to them, because that's gonna make every weapon. I mean, could you imagine poor guardsmen trying to shoot these guys? All of a sudden, they're going up to 5?
Yeah, and then with a 4+ invulnerable save.
Yeah, and heaven forbid they got the -1 to hit and everything else.
Well,
there's so many minuses.
-3, -4 to hit.
Yeah, we were discussing that. We could you shut and guard down? In the 41st millennium is Harlequins just you're snap shooting at Harlequins the whole game, and then it's harder to wound them. It's huge.
Yeah.
I think.
So the troops, going to the troops, and I'm talking about the name of the troops in here. I think that I know it's tough. The troop choice.
It really messes me up. This is why I say so.
With Justin Troupe on the line,
say like Troupe or something.
About the selection that is the troop. Yeah,
the troop slot of the troops.
Yeah,
here today with Justin Troupe.
My brain just exploded.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about
raise to the 3rd power.
What is that? The Caress, if you ask me, is the strongest one. The Harlequin's Caress.
I think it
was
me
the strongest in the index also. So
yeah, it fits. It just fits right in that zone where you want to be. With strength 5, it opens you up to be able to wound. Or not, I don't want to say reliably, but more consistently wounding higher toughness.
You're wounded on 3s and with a neg 2 AP. It's only 1 damage, but the neg 2 AP is significant. See, the Harlequin's Kiss is only neg 1 AP, but it's D3 damage. So, and it's only +1 strength, and they're both about the same points. So we were discussing, what is that ratio of basic weapons to the Caress? I'm going with 1/3 of your whatever unit should be equipped with Caresses.
And I'm going to echo that simply because when you buy when you buy a box of Harlequins, a Troupe, which I discovered today when I opened my first box, there are 2 caresses in one kit. So,
oh, well, there you go. So 12 troops is 2 boxes.
It's perfect. It's perfect. There you go. So 12 troops, 2 boxes,
well,
4 caresses.
I made the decision based off statistics and math. I'm very glad to see that as echoed in the...
GW felt you. They knew what you were going to say. They made sure. They said, well, Paul's going to like 2 of these.
Some secret CEO powers coming back.
That's what it was.
Yeah, it's been a while since we heard from the secret CEO.
Oh, I got some theories for you. I'll save it for later.
The Crest is the Billy Club of the group, and when you want to get into combat, you want to be giving that consistent hard blow, and this is the tool for that. A lot of people, are so used to the power fist, the thunder hammers, or the equivalent of for whatever army you play, and this is that for the Harlequins. It's not quite a power fist, but this is their heavy hitter. This is their Billy Club, and it does what it needs to do with the high amount of attacks that these guys possess. And the right amount of the caresses weaved into those units, you're tearing through a volume of high toughness targets.
The basic troop has 4 attacks apiece, so you are seeing a lot of very high quality attacks.
Baller.
I agree with that. Yeah. So I think in this army list that I put together, it has 1 max troop, which is 12 dudes.
I like it,
and that's 4 caresses, and that 12, it's only 184 points. And I'm saying that the way it's only 184 points because let's say you want to add a detachment of Harlequins to your army. You want to try them out. Like getting that max troop size is 184 points plus a Shadowmaster. We're still sub 300 points. Well, we're a little bit over 300. We're under 400 points for what is an effective unit.
Yeah, and a fast, hard-hitting, versatile unit. I mean, you're getting a lot out of that. And relatively survivable too. I mean, with all their defensive buffs. So
yeah, absolutely agree. So then in this particular army list, I've then added 2 more 6-man troops, which do have 2 caresses each. Like, I'm glad that's in the box, but this is what I consider mathematically superior.
So let me ask you this, Paul: which Harlequin faction benefit appeals to you most with this loadout?
That's a very great question, and I say that they are really. Believe me when I say this, I think they're all good. Like I think that every single one of the abilities is good. The one that speaks to me most though is I think the riddled path. Does that make sense?
Names are hard. Let me look it up.
Yeah, sorry, the veiled path, the riddlesmiths, and this is the one that at the start of each fight phase you roll the 2 dice. Discard the highest, and that's what gives you the misses. Like you have to ignore that whatever you roll for the hits.
Yeah, that one's going to increase their survivability. Realistically, it's going to increase your survivability by what? Like 1/6.
Well, which I don't. What is you roll 2, discard the highest, so you're looking at
third.
Well, a lot of things are hitting on. Well, you got to think that if you roll a 6 and a 1. Nobody's hitting on a 1, so that, that doesn't matter. Nobody's hitting on,
that's not gonna...
Most people aren't hitting on a 2 either. So, I mean, granted, that is possible, of course, but most people are hitting on a 3, so you've got to roll a 3. But the average roll is 7, so, which is typically, either a 6 and a 1 or a 3 and a 4. So, what is that, 25%? You're increasing but you roll the other, so you're increasing your survivability 13%?
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna need a calculator and maybe someone who's actually good with math because
the instinctual math. I think it's 13%.
Yeah, shooting from the hip here, but because the big issue is that one, you have to roll realistically. If you're fighting something that's going to hit on 3+, you're going to roll those dice, and you're going to roll something. You need to roll higher than 2 for it to even matter, right? Because if they roll 1 or 2, it's missing anyway. So ideally, you're rolling 3+.
The 2 6-man troops get these Skyweavers. Sorry, the Starweavers, the transports. Mm-hmm. Because I think that, well, number one, 12 folks won't fit in there, but 6 will. And with the open top, I think you've got some play there, and then with all the stuff, the bonuses that come with that transport, with being harder to hit. and things of that nature. I think that it's going to really help them. The Mirage launchers, your opponent has to subtract 1, and the fact that you can add 6 to your move range at almost any time, so you're moving 22 inches base.
And maybe it's just that inner assault addict in me, but I feel like Frozen Stars just sounds so much more appealing. With
Is that the +1 attack?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Frozen Stars is the one I kind of built my list when I was thinking of a list, because I went 6 troops in my list, but I was basically going for a brigade. And I think Frozen Stars is the one I really like. I also love Midnight Sorrow with that ability to.
They're all good, man.
Yeah, fall back farther. I love the mobility. So the mobility of Harlequins really leads me towards a Midnight Sorrow and be able to consolidate farther and stuff like that. But
now,
the Frozen Stars.
Yeah, I'm saying they're all good, but realistically, like the Harlequins are in kind of a weird place, because if you want to be playing space elves, you're probably better off with the craft worlds of the Drukhari.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about just power level.
Yeah.
Or power on the tabletop is what I should say. I shouldn't say power level, but with the Harlequins, they do have some tools though, and I want to go to that. I think that really now I'm gonna run quickly past through the list, and then we'll talk about how I would butcher this list. How about that?
Okay.
So Skyweavers, which we gushed about the Skyweavers last week, and the Skyweavers were really good. The 30 points and a piece, and take 6. And then the glaives. Now, you guys brought up a good point last week, how the Star Bolas with their grenade ability is 12 inches is great, but the rules say you only get to throw one of them a turn. So you might as well be buying some glaives, since you're going to have limited options with your bolas. So the points, after you buy the 6 weavers, buy some glaives, you're looking at 198 points. That's not a lot. That's 198 points for 18 wounds that are that get to zip around the table like at a bazillion inches with a 4+ invulnerable save, and they're -1 to hit.
That don't suck.
So
that doesn't suck at all.
They have the blur of color, which is the fact that they get to add 6 inches to their move characteristics. In the advance, when they advance, they add 6 instead of rolling a dice. So 22 inches. They have the hollow suit, which is a 4+ invulnerable save, and your opponent must subtract 1 to hit rolls with the Mirage launchers. Now, they're only toughness 4, but they're 3 wounds apiece with a 4+ invulnerable save.
Dare I say this sub 200 points is better than a unit of 10 Reavers?
You might be right. And so the next part of the list is 2 units of 2 Skyweavers past that. So it's a unit of 6 Skyweavers, and then 2 units of 2 Skyweavers, and then 2 Voidweavers. Now, the Voidweavers have the haywire cannon. You pay for the haywire cannon, but a Voidweaver with the bells and whistles, a couple of shuriken cannons and a haywire cannon, is 93 points.
I'm on board with haywire cannons. So I'm putting them on Skyweavers. I'm putting them on Voidweavers.
Yeah, you shoot D6 damage, right?
D6 shots now with what? So
it 4+ is a mortal wound.
Is a mortal wound.
Yeah. So
and then if you roll 6+,
roll a 4, it's a mortal wound. Yeah. So you're going to be needing 5s and 6s most of the time because it's only strength 4. When you're shooting at vehicles, but every time you roll a 4, you're doing some damage.
Yeah, and every time you roll a 6, you're doing D3.
Yeah, you're doing more, potentially more anyway.
Yeah.
So
just roll 6s.
Yeah. So with the Voidweavers, I'm looking at 93 points each. So, and then of course I said put in a unit of 3 Hemlocks or a Flower Wing of 3 Hemlocks. Because
I can dig that. I mean, the leadership thing is great. So you're going to be taking more models off the table after you've done. Knock them upside the head. This particular list does not have a Death Jester written into it, like I have it here. But Death Jesters being able to nominate the model that gets picked, like they're going to be making a leadership test on an impressive negative in the morale phase. Oh yeah,
you've shot them with your stuff, Hemlocks, Star Bolas, whatever.
Get off the table, homie.
Yeah, you're picking up critical models. Anybody with a power fist, anybody with a las cannon is gone.
Now, I don't know if I heard you say this. Is there a solitaire in this list?
This is not the full 2,000 points. That's what I sent. I kind of sent Ricky. I'm like, oh man, like all this stuff is not a lot of points, is what we were talking about.
Okay, cool. Because I need to hear solitaire. Basically, when I hear, hey, I got a Harlequins list. All right, so you got a solitaire in what?
Yeah, that should be.
Well,
Battle Scribe should just be automatic. Like it should just be preset that when you
it just auto loads a solitaire.
It auto loads solitaire in there, and then you do whatever you want after that.
Well, I'm talking about ripping apart this list. I'm thinking that what is it? The Outrider detachment with fast attack or whatever. Like, remember what I said? Like 6 Skyweavers is 198 points. A unit of 2 Skyweavers is 60 points.
Yeah, 3. That's how I would do it. 3 of those at 2 bodies each.
So the sky that's 6 wounds with all the benefits that we just said. They do have some damage output capacity, but you got to think like most mission packs now have some type of progressive scoring.
Yeah,
and if you're looking at rulebook missions or you're looking at ITC missions, you're scoring to the end of the round, and having somebody that can move 22 inches to jump on top of an objective. That's pretty good.
Yeah, you might want to consider throwing a 3rd body on there, like just for a couple extra wounds.
Oh no, 90 points.
Hearing something like that just makes me wish more and more that Scout Bikers were troops.
Yeah. Good point.
Those are just such a versatile way to use that unit, and I think that's probably why it's most of our favorite unit in the book. Is just 2 dudes serves a purpose.
You're paying serves a purpose. You're paying 10 points per wound, and that wound happens to be protected by a 4+ invulnerable save and a -1 to hit.
Yeah, it's cheaper than a Marine, and arguably way better.
I think that's true.
It's hard to make a case for Marines nowadays. It's like you remember how people used to talk about like Marine equivalent stat lines, and Marines were the things that everything was based off of. They just feel so average nowadays.
That's a good point.
I think the mentality of how game design and character design or model design or unit design, whatever word you want to use for that, has evolved from that so much more that we're getting more dynamic rules. We're getting more fun things to do. A Marine has always been a Marine. It's just everything else has gotten so much more fun and better. A Marine is the same as it was 10 years ago. It still does the same exact thing, and it's still a good unit. It's just now things have gotten faster, stronger.
Think about the other way. Like say you're running an FTN style mission where you score progressives at the beginning of the turn. Then a Marine body, is I think a little bit more valuable.
Yeah.
But that's a different thing. Like, but that is a point to how mission design influences what is good. Like and that's one of the ways you balance the game. Point limits, mission design, whatever. It's a topic for another conversation, but it does kind of change up, what's good, what actually works on the table. I'm still saying though that like pound for pound, point for point, point to wound ratio, the Skyweavers are your best bet in this codex.
Yeah, they're the clear winners. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I'm digging it. But we talked about like how if I'm using the term and I'm just saying is the catch-all space elves. If you're playing Eldari, like you're probably not going to be like, oh, what you're having this discussion like what can I take out to include some Harlequins in my list, because in the beta rules, you can't use Ynnari or Eldari as a binding faction when creating your army list anymore. So to get some of these things in your army, you have to take some detachment, and you're limited on detachments in match play to what you include. So I think if you're a Harlequin enthusiast, which I am, then you look to the Skyweavers. You look to that Outrider detachment if you're not building a pure Harlequin list.
So I guess my question to you is, when would you take a troop over a Skyweaver, or would you?
Well, I think the better question is the first one is like, when would you take a troop? And I feel like if I'm in a situation to where I've lowered my drop rate enough to where I'm going to get that +1 to go first, then a large 12-man troop with all those attacks becomes a lot more impressive. And I say that because things like the flip belt, for instance, the model can move across models and terrain as if they were not there.
Yeah, but so can a Skyweaver.
Okay, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. The troop is an infantry unit, and so different stratagems work on them, and the Skyweavers are not infantry.
The troop can also assault things on higher levels in multi-level terrain.
It's a biker. The Skyweaver has fly.
Oh, never mind.
So it's got that, but specifically the troop is an infantry, and it has. And remember, each troop has 4 attacks. Each player has 4 attacks apiece. So
yeah, the bikes are what, 3?
Yeah, they're
apiece?
3. Yeah. So if I've manipulated my drop rate to be to where I feel like I'm going to have the advantage on most other armies, then your troop with the combination of the flip belt, I think makes them even more devastating because they can do things like Rising Crescendo, which means they can fall back and still shoot and or charge. So on your movement phase, you fall back, which we all know means fall forward.
If you're not doing that, you're doing it wrong.
Well, with your 8 inches, jumping over the screen units and then assaulting.
Well, here's another thing to consider too. So we're talking about the Outrider detachment specifically. You could still take a troop choice in the Outrider detachment. And I still think that a troop choice from the Harlequin side, with everything that Paul just mentioned, is better than a lot of your assault choices in the other thing. I'll just use witches, for example. 12 Harlequins destroys 20 witches.
Do you think so?
I think so.
Just on weight of attacks and...
quality.
It's hard
weight.
to argue with that attacks characteristic in large numbers.
Yeah, and then with the caress, a few of them having, let's say you in a 12-man unit, you do have 4 caresses. What is that? That's 20...
16 attacks.
16 attacks, right? That's right.
Unless you got the one Masque, and then it would be 20 attacks.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah,
so
a ton of attacks with a really good AP and string characteristic.
Yeah, I mean they got the 5-up invul, the witch.
I don't have it in front of me. I know that they are a great.
Right.
The witches are a great unit. We are talking. The witches are great.
Yeah, arguably it was my favorite unit.
And great,
yeah, it was my go-to favorite unit in the Dark Eldar Codex or Drakari. So it just, in my opinion, I just think that the Harlequins do it better. I think they have more tools in their tool chest. I think that they're faster.
Man, I love the flip belt. I mean, I think that's going to be something that if you just submit in your brain that you can ignore some things and like you are not bound. Like we've talked before about the hostage taking technique to where you box in a unit to where it can't run away. So you're able to really control the tempo. These will let you the Harlequins in the flip belt puts that tempo control back in your pocket.
Yeah, strategically cut off those lanes, not letting them through, and then they're stuck there just to get beat down, man. I love it.
And they're not a lot of points. Like if you're especially the HQ choices are somewhat limited in the Harlequin book. I mean, I shouldn't say limited. You've got the Troupe Master or the Shadowweaver, and so you're paying you're paying 70, 80 points minimum for a troop for an HQ. There's no 35-point HQ in this book. So that's a little bit of a tax on your detachment. But where I was going before, like you guys were asking, is like, how would I use the troop? If I feel like, because if you have fewer drops than your opponent, deployment drops. What is that? That's like a 65%, 68% or something to go first once you factor in the Cs.
Yeah, you're not far off if you are off.
I can't be too far off, right? It's like 60-something% to go first if you have fewer deployments. That if you're going to have if you're going to have a minimum assault element in your army, that's what you need to be going for. I believe if you're going to be assaulting, like if you want assault to be your primary strategy, you need to have a ton of points involved in assault. Like one of the lists we're kicking around for is in our group in our gaming club is like 1,800 points of assault, of just assault based things in your army. Now I'm talking about this is like 40 Alpha Legion Berserkers and Mortarion and some other shenanigans. Like it's a lot of in your face stuff your opponent has to deal with. So if you aren't going that route, you have to, and you are taking an assault element that you plan to use. This is not counter assault. That's another thing. If it's counter assault, then this is all out the window. Then you're playing a reactive game. But if you're playing a proactive game where you want to be assaulting with your troops, you have to kind of play to the odds. And if you're playing to the odds, a troop is pretty point efficient for the amount of damage you can put out.
Yeah. I think, like, honestly, have 12 bodies built and ready to rock. I think that's like caresses. Stay again?
With 4 caresses.
Yeah, definitely. And you can't go wrong because either you're taking that one 12-man unit, or you're squeezing in 2 6-mans into some Star Weavers and stuff. Like I just feel like that's like a good number just to have on hand, ready to go. And you're going to find use for them in a lot of cases. And if you look at it in this kind of light, if you will, taking what you want isn't as penalized in this edition as it was in other editions. Yes, you'll win more games probably with a different choice, but you're probably not going to lose more games because you decided to take the troops over the Star Weavers,
there are no bad choices in this. I talked about the troop master comes with a point, like he's not inexpensive, but his choreographer of war ability in the fight phase reroll failed wound rolls for friendly Masque units that are within 6 inches of this model.
Super good.
Stack up the awesomeness.
They're strength 3. So you're going to be needing 4s and 5s to wound lots of stuff. I mean, that reroll really jumps up the odds.
Yeah, that with him being strength 3 and you not paying the points, to upgrade every player's weapon, the troop master he's going to make his points back there, I think.
Yeah, he's no slouch in combat either. He does have 5 attacks base. You can give him a caress also. So he's coming in 5 attacks, strength 5, neg 2 AP. He's going to be putting up some damage and also re-rolling for himself to wound.
Yeah, I mean, with how many attacks he has, he's hitting on 2s. I mean, you're silly not to go ahead and pay the points and make sure he does some work when he gets in there.
Yeah, I think though these guys do pair really well with a flyer wing of Hemlocks.
Yeah, as like I was building my list and I was like, no, I want pure Harlequin, and then you mentioned Hemlocks, and I started looking at Hemlocks, and Hemlock is probably the best looking aircraft in 40K. I love the model.
It's a pretty model.
I feel like I've heard you say that somewhere before.
Yeah, probably like any time
with the or any flyer. You're real high.
We talk about
on the Black Star also.
Oh yeah, it's cool. But just -2, and then when we start talking about the psychic powers, that if you just brought an air wing detachment of these, 3 of them, and drain, innervate, and
Jinx,
there was
neg 1
Jinx,
save.
yeah. Oh my gosh! And then you just fly those over, shoot up everything, and then just make one unit absolutely susceptible to that 12-man Harlequin troop, and it's just they pair so well together.
We didn't talk about it before, but the Hemlocks are also psychers, and they get the debuff side of the runes of battle the Warlocks have. They can also half the movement of a unit. That's one of the powers they can get. And so if you are trying to control the tempo of the game and you're trying to delay, to stymie another assault unit, the Hemlocks can help with that. They run up there and I think it might be drain, or I forget what the name of the power is, but they can half the movement of a unit that could be coming to save a unit the Harlequins are beating on. They're never going to make it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty safe to say that Hemlocks are a flyer wing that fits pretty well into any Eldari list. The big thing about Hemlocks also that adds them strength that I think exceeds many of the other flies is that if I run into a flyer, right, as a guy who plays a lot of jump packs, I can charge that flyer. Oftentimes I've got the tools to deal damage to it too. But with a Hemlock, where it's auto hitting on Overwatch with those extremely strong guns, it insulates you quite a bit from a lot of those threats. Anything that doesn't ignore Overwatch you're pretty much going to be safe from charges from, or at least you're going to kill a lot of it on the way in.
2 damage apiece, an average of 4 shots each. Neg 4 AP, they got that neg 4, which is...
Yeah, my Sanguinary Guard want nothing to do with that. My Death Company want nothing to do with that.
It's a weird position to put yourself in where you're like, man...
That's when you need Banginius.
I hope they charge my flyer.
With that Angel's Wing, that's great.
Oh.
But even stuff like, and these aren't super common, but just to throw things out there, like Bloodthirsters or Demon Princes or maybe even Magnus or Mortarion, right?
Hemlocks, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, so you can push them up pretty aggressively and feel safe from anything that isn't shooting at you.
Well, the strength of the Hemlock. Now, I'm not using this as a crutch to make the Harlequin stronger. I think that's important to talk about. I think they fit well with the Harlequin strategy of somewhat of beating things down using leadership manipulation. But the Hemlocks, they work at any wound. Like, who cares if they're beat up? They're operating essentially at full capacity even at one wound left.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Because they don't roll to hit.
Yeah, you're always moving at least 20 inches. I mean, literally, like, the only thing you care about is the fact that your max speed is less. There's nothing else, is there, that is affected other than the fact that you're not going 60 inches.
Yeah, I don't think so.
That's cool.
Yeah, and that -2 bubble, it's that 12-inch bubble from a Hemlock is like 40 inches.
It's big.
It's not 40. I mean, it's 18 or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a big chunk of the table.
Well, it's 12. It's 12 inches. So 12, 24, and then however wide the base is at its widest is what, 5, maybe 6 inches. You're pushing a 30-inch bubble depending on how it's facing. So yeah, that's pretty good.
It's a huge chunk of the table.
Yeah. Suffice to say, if you're shooting something with a Hemlock, it's getting that -2.
Well, we talk about what you have to do with an elite army, and I think that the points reduction with the Harlequins have made them they're less of just they're not specifically an elite army anymore. They're not a horde army by any stretch, but they're not the elite 10-man army or whatever anymore.
Custodians.
You know what? I would love to see these guys go up against Custodies. I think that would be a super fun game to watch because that could go either way real quick.
I think the real test of a book, though, is can you bring this army purely as that faction and still feel like you're a contender?
I think that with the fact that the Voidweavers are so inexpensive, the Voidweavers are your anti-tank. They're the ones with the haywire and the shuriken cannons and stuff like that. It's only 93 points. So everything in this book has a potential to go toe-to-toe with what you'll see out there in the meta. I think that. I fully believe that. Where we run into it, though, is that, you know, sometimes it's a game of bodies. But this comes down to missions as well. Like I said, that a troop unit of 12 guys is 198 points. Well, how many Nurglings is 198 points? How many? Of them. Yeah, you're looking at double the amount of Poxwalkers for that many points.
Yeah. And
they're immune to morale.
You know, there are some tournaments I would not take this army to just because I know what to expect out of their terrain. But, you know, a Harlequin army on a table with really good line-of-sight blocking terrain that could protect them on their advance across the table, they could wreck some people. But if you get these, you know, just bowling alley across the table, they're going to get shot up, you know. But
terrain is such a huge deal. Like cover,
yeah,
like the fact that cover, like units have to be fully within cover. Like line of sight blocking does not give someone an armor saving or a bonus to armor save anymore.
Yeah, sometimes I miss the old cover. Actually, almost all the time I miss the old cover.
But these guys have a 4+ invulnerable save, so
yep,
use that, flip it around and everything.
Yeah, that you know, just to quickly touch on the terrain thing, a lot of people kind of need to just break their mind away from the concept that the terrain has to look the best as possible. That's not. If your tournament is not in a place that you can have the best looking terrain, at least make the most functional terrain.
Yeah, functional.
And you could do that so cheaply or inexpensive, I should say.
It's easy. It's easy to say that. I mean, like I agree. By the way, Justin, I agree with you. Like, there's not even that. I'm saying it's really easy to say that. But you hit on the, like, your first point was dead on. It needs to be it needs to matter. Like, if you're going to put any effort into it, you need to make sure it matters.
Yeah. And that will change the way that you know, the feedback you receive will be, in a lot of cases, 100% more positive. Because that's the first thing that almost every gamer complains about the moment they walk up to a table is the terrain. Because that's the first thing you see is, you know, what's the table look like? Oh, God, man, like, really? Like one hill and half a tree? Like, thanks. You know what I mean? Like, so just do, you know, if that's one thing that you hear, you know, consistently from your players at your events, just take that heed and, you know, kind of think about what are the more popular or, bigger tournaments that are a little bit more funded, kind of like analyze what their terrain is doing, not necessarily what it looks like, what it's doing, and try to mimic that to the best of your ability. And that'll change a lot for a lot of you TOs and stuff out there.
That's a good point. I mean, that's one of the things we talked about. You know, we got the Sluggo coming up very soon, and the Bourbon Brothers guys have been putting together a lot of terrain. And it's like, and when I was like, look, this is not the prettiest terrain piece. I'm like, yeah, but it works. Like it does. It checks off all the boxes, you know, for what terrain should be doing. And, you know, that directly contributes to someone having a good time in the game on some table somewhere, right?
Faux show. Yeah,
absolutely. Oh, I know we're talking about Harlequins and building lists and how it fits into the Eldari and stuff. And we talked briefly about the Battle Brothers, the new Battle Brothers rule, and how Eldari and Ynnari are no longer words that you can build a soup detachment as we've, you know, is come to be known as anymore.
They have strained the soup, sir.
So now you've got to take what is that kind of the HQ tax or whatever. And so I think if you are trying to get one on the cheap, it's going to be tough. I think the go-to detachment for this army to be on the point-wise inexpensive is the Outrider, with probably a Shadowseer for all the psychic powers they get and everything else, and then with the Skyweavers.
Yeah, you're naked under 300 points.
Yeah, well, if you're going with the other side of it, if you're going to structure your army to where you have a minimal amount of deployments, i.e. drops, and you think that you're going to have a higher opportunity to go first, then you want to be looking at a Troupe Master and or Shadowweaver and a fat unit of players. A troop unit of troops.
Yeah, I'm coming. Yeah, got it.
Troupe, yep. We're not talking about the Ogren launcher. We're talking about players.
And that reminds me, did you guys see that photo of the Angry Marines launcher that got shared with us?
Oh, yeah. That's so awesome.
Yeah,
I mean,
he did way better than I did.
I appreciate that callback from an old joke. Thank you very much for posting that.
I chortled. I definitely chortled at the Angry Marines flying out of that whirlwind.
Well, when you're looking at, you know, what we're talking about, you're under 400 points for a unit that has, 1,000 attacks. I mean, it's a ton of attacks, a ton of quality attacks. You're looking at 58 attacks with that one mask that gives a +1 attack.
Yeah, it's just terrifying.
Yeah, telling you. 20 witches gone.
Yeah, I mean it's a ton of attacks. I mean it's good stuff. I think that this is it's a sub faction. Obviously, you know, you can look at it by the pages, the number of pages of the books and how many models are available and stuff like that. But it's potent when used, you know, precise, like a scalpel. That's kind of how you have to look at it. Is how do I put this in my army and really make the most out of it? I think that. But at the same time, I think that it has the tools to be its own army. But I think it's going to be most effective when you blend it in with the other Eldari stuff.
Yeah, I think, you know, you're going to be able to win games with Harlequins. Will it be top table at the end of a 5-round GT? Probably not, realistically. But I think you're definitely going to go and have a good time if you decide to play pure Harlequins. And you want to go and you're going to win some games, and you're going to be really proud of yourself with those wins. Just the way you're going to win with this army compared to how, you know, other armies typically win is, I think, going to be drastically different. I think it's going to be a very rewarding army to play, win or lose. I think you're going to find a way to enjoy them from a pure standpoint.
Fun. That's everything that this army says, from the rules to the modeling to the paint, everything about it. It's just
devious
fun
stuff with them, man. I'm telling you, falling forward 8 inches.
Yeah.
I mean, think about their basic movement is 8. Like that changes the math significantly. Like, it's difficult to jump over things when your movement is 6. It's a lot easier to do when your movement is 8.
Yeah, my main goal for building this army and playing it is just so at the end of the game, I can say, after they, you know, shake my hand and thank me for the easy win because they're playing me, I could say, yeah, but remember when I flipped over you and charged 3 of your tanks? That was great, right? Because those are the moments that I want out of this army, is to be able to pull shenanigans like that, and that's what I'm looking for.
There's tons of hobby opportunity with these guys as well. I mean, like it's very difficult to paint like, Games Workshop is not even messing around. With some of these box arts and stuff, the paint job is very attainable. They're not kidding around with these paint jobs.
Yeah, I said it before. At least my first Harlequin will be diamond all up and down, and then we'll see about the rest.
And the rest will be block colors.
Yeah, but I definitely want to give it a go. I've been painting, so I play Stormcast Eternals, so I paint gold so much, and then I play Dark Angels, so I paint just solid green so much. I don't have any like super colorful armies, so I'm actually kind of looking forward to pulling out these weird colors that I never ever get to use on something from the Imperium. There's not
a couple of great tutorials out there. Like Duncan and GW have a great tutorial. I watched a tutorial, I want to say from Cujo Painting on YouTube.
Like the dog?
Yeah. And it was incredibly advanced.
Those are two words that I don't really want applied to my.
But he had a good style of how he went about the tutorial. Now, I still looked at him like, I want to try that. I want to try it. I want to try everything. But he had a great way of painting the black and coming in and doing some, like, the staff. Anyway, just check it out. There's cool tutorials out there for painting Harlequins that make it accessible. It did make it infinitely more accessible. But I think that if you're just picking up brand new, then Duncan's tutorial on the Harlequin is where you want to start.
Absolutely.
Well, this army treated like a a labor of love, like a project, and you will be rewarded because look, they have a certain style to them, and if you can capture that style, then you get an impressive army. There's no getting around it. It's going to be awesome.
I think if you can halfway pull off a Harlequin paint job, it's going to put you. It will put you above somebody with a masterful Space Marine paint job because it attracts the eye. It's so visually striking. They're just fun to see.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, Harlequin painting pro tip: you don't have to do diamonds and checkers. You can do stripes down the pants, which is a much easier effect to accomplish.
And there are different tutorials.
Or stars. You can just paint like a starry field or something.
There's different tutorials out there on all that stuff, and it's a canvas. You really can do whatever you want. You're exactly right, Justin.
Yeah, don't feel subjected to that one look. They should be colorful. I don't want to say they have to be colorful. They should be colorful because that's kind of the fun of them. But the actual, how you're applying those colors, that, like Paul said, it is your canvas, and you can have so much fun just coming up with new ideas.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, I'll go ahead and wrap us up. We do have the Sluggo coming up here, June 9th and 10th. It is a grand tournament for ITC points. If you have not already registered for it, you're in the area, please do. We're going to love to see you there. We do value hobby and stuff is a big part of it. So there's going to be a lot of great looking armies there. So come check it out. Even if you aren't playing, come check out the venue and see the armies. I think by the time I can say that I'm like 2 hours away from finishing my friend's Necron army.
Good. That will line up perfectly, Paul, with the Harlequin models that are in the mail towards you right now.
Nice. Yeah, I did. I think I had an unfortunate spill with a pot of Noan oil that has set me back a couple of days. And it was, I don't make this mistake often. I really don't, but I knocked over a third of a pot of Noan oil and it landed right on my shorts.
Paul weathered his pants. It's good.
It was hard. I had to put the models down. I'll come back in a couple of days. I had to walk it off. It was only a third of a bottle, but it was a third of those big bottles.
Yeah, which is basically a whole
half a gallon basically, all over your lap.
Half of my cutting mat is shaded black from my Noan oil disaster once a few years ago. So
it never happens. It never happens.
Yeah, that's what they always say.
Yeah. So set me back a day or so. I'm going to be done with the Necrons. I say I'm like 2 hours away from being done with them. But, it's not bad. A 2,000 point army. Now it's Necrons, so it is what it is, but turned around.
2 hours. So you just finished priming, so you'll just knock the rest out.
I've got 2 wraiths left to do. But it's not even the race. I've got to put a glow effect on the knobs and gems and stuff on 2 wraiths, and then I'm done.
Wow. So you got 2 minutes.
Yeah.
No, I've got to paint all the knobs black, and then I got to go in with the orange and several oranges and the yellow highlight. Like it's got to look good, right? And he does. He was like my buddy. He did not overly request this, but he was like, "These other Necrons with these glow effects look cool." I'm like, "Yeah, they do look cool."
Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
You're not getting those. But I did it on the Immortals on their Tesla. I put a glow effect on the Immortals Tesla, and with an airbrush, it's a little bit easier, but it takes that confidence of doing it. Like I had to work myself up too. I had to look at a painted model that looked good, and then like, I'm about to spray orange on this thing.
Please don't blow this out. Please don't blow this out.
That's exactly. I'm about to blow orange all over this model that looks decent. That's going to max our rubric, right? I'm about to go to work on this thing that already has the points. So what am I even doing?
Well, there you go, folks. Paul Murphy's painting service going that extra mile for you, the customer.
Well, we talked about the finishing move segment, right? You know, like we talk about, I could spend 5 more minutes on these things and get a much better result, but it takes that little bit of confidence to do it. And like just trusting the fact that you can do it. And seeing that vision.
Yeah, confidence or alcohol. It's either way.
Liquid courage.
There you go.
I find that alcohol actually helps remove paint.
Yeah. So I don't know that I would do this on every single Necron or even the race or whatever, but I was able to pull off a really cool effect on the Immortals, and I posted it on Twitter at Warmaster _TPM.
Less is more is always the best.
I think you're right. But you got to trust. You got to trust the color wheel. You got to trust a little bit of your skill. You got to trust what it's going to look like. You got to trust your vision. You got to trust. Let me tell you what you really got to trust. You got to trust your ability to easily repaint over your mistake.
Yeah. And in this case, you got to trust that there's actually a decent pigment in that orange.
Yeah. But that's where I was at. I'm like, you know what? I can do this because I'll just repaint the weapon if it doesn't work out. And so I went in and did it. It looks good. Whatever. I think it looks all right. Well, guys, I'm going to wrap that up. I know that was kind of a brief hobby segment of just like trusting it, but that goes back to one of those tutorials we were just talking about where they talked about they shaded yellow with purple. Can you believe it?
What? Crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. It is crazy, but that's color theory. Whatever. I don't pretend to understand it, but you can't deny the results.
I'm going to have to Google it.
Well, guys, thank y'all for joining me. Thanks for talking about Harlequins and Necron painting.
Necroquins.
Remember, we're not going to be here next week, but we're here the week after talking about Knights.
Listen, you all don't even have to show up. Knights, it's going to be Ricky talking for an hour and a half straight about some big, giant robotic goodness.
Stompy robots.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
We'll see y'all soon.
Good night, everybody.
I am your father.